This podcast is rated E for everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Nifty Ninty. As always, I am your host, Matt Tuna Turner, and this is the podcast where we run down everything Nintendo every week. I'm coming at you guys from the road again this week, so sorry in advance for the delay. I have visited, I think, 3 countries in the last week. So I haven't had a whole lot of time to record. I finally have a moment, so I decided I would jump onto my computer and get this out for you. I have a really great show for you guys planned again this week. Some great news and, of course, new releases. But I think the biggest news on the Nintendo front for the last week is, of course, the long-rumored Diablo 3 coming to Switch. But we'll get to that just a little bit later. Why don't we start, as usual, with this week's new releases. There's a little bit of a slow week this week, which is a little surprising, considering we usually have just a million indies that come out every week, but we didn't this week, or even on the package front. In the end, I guess it helps me, because I haven't had a whole lot of time to keep up on everything over the last week with all the travel. Regardless, this week saw the release of, at least on the Ninty front, we saw the release of Castle Storm, Detective Gallo. We got another Johnny Turbo's arcade game, Nitro Ball. Another game called Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, which sounds kind of fun. We have a QWOP-inspired game, if you guys remember QWOP, where you control the character's limbs, each limb in fact, both arms, both legs, called Manual Samuel. It looks like it has an absolutely hilarious narrative, so if you guys are a fan of QWOP, maybe check that out. Next up, Hero, followed by Persian Knights, Sand of Wonders, which you'd think might be a Prince of Persia clone, but it's not. It's actually more of a casual adventure game with some very neat puzzles. After that, we have Polygod, Red's Kingdom, and then an old-style platformer, Roboto, which is single and multiplayer. And finally, on the Nindy front, a game called Treadnoughts. The two packaged goods standouts this past week was State of Mind and Comic Star Heroine. So you can see what I mean. It wasn't a very busy week, but it is summer. Summer and January are traditionally slow months in gaming, so it's not exactly a big surprise. Regardless, why don't we move on with some of this past week's headlines? I'm going to start off this week with just a couple quick mentions. The first being that the Dark Souls Remastered Edition coming to the Switch finally gets a release date. You guys will be happy to know that it is coming on October 19th of this year. So finally, a release date. Hopefully this one sticks and it doesn't move again. Also, another quick note, Doom Eternal is coming to the Switch, and it is being handled by the same folks who did the original Doom port to the Switch. But the best part about Doom Eternal coming to the Switch is that it will be coming day and date with the Xbox One and PS4 versions. So as Switch owners, we don't have to wait. We get it on the same day, which is pretty awesome. It means you don't have to buy a new console just to play this game. Of course, this game does not have a release date yet. It was just announced, but we will be getting it on the exact same day. This next bit of news is less news and more rumor. Apparently, the new Super Mario Bros. U released on the Wii U, as well as its Super Luigi Bros. U, is going to be ported to the Switch. It would join the likes of Mario Kart 8 and Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze in the Wii U ports coming to Switch. I mean, let's not dance around the fact that the Wii U had some awesome games, and I'm happy that players get a chance to experience them again, or maybe for the first time, coming to the Switch. Also, this was probably the last really good 2D platformer for any Nintendo console, actually, now that I think about it, especially in the Mario Brothers line. The Luigi Bros. Expansion, DLC, whatever you want to call it, was some of the hardest platforming I think of any Mario game. Basically challenged you to beat each level as quickly as possible. Regardless, if this rumor happens to be true, I think it's a wonderful addition to the Switch library, even if it is a game that was released on last-gen platform. I swear every week we get more news on the Pogo front, which is good. It means they are constantly updating the game, which is always good. Last week we got some really big news from them in the form of PvP coming at some point in time this year. This week, two little bits of Pogo news. The first being that it's going to be getting some parental controls. So parents who want their kids to explore the great outdoors, but also don't want to have to worry about them stumbling upon things that may be inappropriate while playing Pogo, don't have to worry anymore. Parental controls are there, and there's a handy guide online about how to enable those parental controls. And also on the Pogo front, the mythical Pokemon Celebi will be coming to Pogo as a special research worldwide release. That will be coming very soon. So excited to be getting Celebi finally in Pokemon Go. It'll be great to catch it. And also on the Pokemon front, this is kind of sad news to be honest. The voice actor for the Japanese version of the cartoon, the voice actor for Professor Oak, has sadly died. I'm going to get in trouble here because I just butcher these names, but the voice actor named Unsho Ishizuka, who voiced Professor Oak and narrated the Pokemon anime in Japanese, has sadly died. This wasn't his only work. His other works included Cowboy Bebop, as well as Dragon Ball and some of the Tekken series. Sadly, he will be missed. He died of esophageal cancer, and he was only 68 years old. Now that we're done with the sad news, on to the biggest news of this past week, and that is that the long-rumored Diablo 3 is coming to Switch, which is really exciting. We are getting Diablo 3 and all of its expansions coming to the Nintendo Switch. A new trailer was leaked this past week by Forbes magazine of all people, and later confirmed by Blizzard. Apparently the port took about 9 months to complete, which is a really long time, considering I'm pretty sure that Diablo 3 is already out on every other console and platform known to man. Maybe not mobile. Of course, the Switch version is getting some wonderful Nintendo goodies, and those would be a unique armor set that makes you look like Ganondorf from the Legend of Zelda series. Also, the Switch version features not only local 4-player co-op on the same machine, but also 4-player co-op on separate Switches, and that is without an internet connection, as well as fully online co-op, so that you don't have to play with people in the same room. The game is going to retail for $59.99 USD, and for those of you keeping track, this is actually the first Blizzard game on a Nintendo platform in 15 years. I think the last one was it the first Diablo, or I think maybe StarCraft? Anyways, the game will be called Diablo 3: The Eternal Collection. When the trailer launched, there were a few eagle-eyed viewers out there that noticed that there were some new Joy-Con, perhaps, that will be announced later, because there was no official announcement of any new Joy-Con, but it looks like we might be getting some bone white, I would call it, because it's like a light gray, but also not. They kind of look white, but not really, not cream, somewhere between like white and gray. So I'm just going to call it bone white Joy-Con that were in the launch trailer. You only see them for a second, because after that you see the typical red-blue that comes with most Switches. So, fingers crossed for some new Joy-Con and maybe Amiibo, maybe some Amiibo coming. Blizzard, huh? Maybe this will be announced in a new Nintendo Direct. Regardless, the game comes out this fall. Well, that's it for all the releases and news this week. So why don't we go on to some questions? Guess what? There aren't any, which is fine. But I have decided which Mega Man game, I guess I should say Mega Man X game, I will be playing. I am going to be playing Mega Man X6 because I've only played Mega Man X1 and 2, and I wanted to play one of the later entries in the series, see how it has evolved, that sort of thing. So you guys can look forward to a review of that in the future. For now, I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about Unlockables. I don't think I'm going to make this discussion all that long, but you never know. Just kind of wing it, if you will. last week, was it last week? In the last 2 weeks, we saw the Smash Brothers Ultimate Direct. It would appear that they've stripped a lot of the unlockables from that game. For someone like myself, I find this upsetting. I find that it takes away from some of the replayability of a game, especially like Smash Brothers. I wouldn't say it strips away the fun of the game because, I mean, really, the main bulk of that game is competitive as opposed to challenges and stuff. But I find that the act of unlocking something in any game is, especially something you didn't know about, is so rewarding. Whether it be a gamer score on your Xbox or PS4, like a trophy, or a new course in Mario Kart or Smash Bros, or finding a Korok seed in Breath of the Wild is just it's so rewarding, and it's sad that, as far as we know so far, in Smash Bros. Ultimate, they have decided to remove the unlockable feature. All of the music and so far the characters, as well as the stages, sorry, are all available at launch. It's great to be able to jump right into the game. I don't know, maybe I really like tasks. I find myself in Breath of the Wild actively seeking out Korok seeds for most of the time. It's probably where 180 of my 200 hours have gone, to be honest. Is just looking for Korok seeds. So maybe that's why I still play Smash Bros on my 3DS. I still actively try and complete the tasks in that game just so I can get the rewards and unlockables. I don't know. Something about it just seems fun, whether that be new high score in the home run challenge or defeating 20 people with someone random like Captain Olimar. So I wonder, is that going to be gone for Smash Ultimate? I mean, the game is going to be huge, so maybe it is just too big for them to pack it in, which is kind of sad. I just feel that we're missing a good chunk of the fun of this game, especially since we don't even really know what the single player looks like. So far, we've seen classic mode shown off as a single player mode, but there's no like spaceship emissary type of thing yet. How do you guys feel about unlockables? Is this something you actively seek out? I know that unlockables can come in many different forms, whether it's artwork, music. They aren't always in-game or playable things like a character or a stage. Sometimes they're a trophy or a track. But what do you guys think of them? Do you like them? I'm gonna put a poll up on Twitter, and I hope you guys let me know how you feel about it. I know personally that I'm a huge fan of unlockables. I think they're great. Whether you complete the game or not, I think it's still fun to stumble upon them, or even in some cases create a list and try and knock them off one by one by one by one. I just feel that you get a more complete play experience with unlockables than if everything was just presented to you up front. But again, in terms of Smash Brothers, it is primarily a competitive game as opposed to a single player experience. So while the move somewhat makes sense, it's still disappointing. But let me know what you guys think. Do you like unlockables? Do you not like them? Do you want to see them come back to Smash? Do you not care? It's possible you really don't care. So let me know. Let me know in the comments. Find me on Twitter, tunaent_official. There'll be a poll up. Let me know what you guys think. Just before moving on to this week's game review, I want to give a special thanks to Blake Kaplan. So if you're out there listening, thank you for helping me to pinpoint Dark Samus. As y'all know, Dark Samus was announced as an Echo Fighter for Smash Ultimate, and I personally didn't know where she was from. Apparently, she is from Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. I have not been fortunate enough to actually play much of that franchise. The only one I've sunk any real amount of time in was the 3DS Metroid Prime Hunters. So hopefully we will see a Metroid Prime trilogy come to the Switch, and I will be able to enjoy that game when it does. But again, thank you, Blake Kaplan, for helping me out. Alright, for this week's game review, we have the Blue Bombers' one and only 16-bit era outing. I hope you guys enjoy my review of Mega Man 7, which I played via the Mega Man Legacy Collection number 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Mega Man 7 marks the Blue Bombers' first true sequel to those old 8-bit classics. But with upgraded hardware, does this adventure still stack up? I'm not sure if Capcom was hesitant or just didn't have a firm grasp on the SNES hardware when they designed Mega Man 7, but something feels off with this title. The 16-bit graphics do look better than the 8-bit predecessors, but this entry is missing a lot of the punishing difficulty that has become normal for the Blue Bomber. That being said, there was some pretty inventive level design that promoted some light exploration and some debilitating death traps. Sadly, this one is so formulaic that generally one life is all you need. Of course, playing on the Switch, you have the addition of save states and rewind, but I never found myself reaching for rewind like I did in the other titles in this collection. While all the hallmarks of any Mega Man game is present, this game just feels slow. The Blue Bomber's animations may look better, but something in the way he moves feels sluggish. Mega Man 7 was the first game in the series on the SNES, which meant added horsepower and extra buttons. But since the game had very humble beginnings, there wasn't a lot done with them. I think the most intuitive addition is using the shoulder buttons to cycle through the earned weapons. Of course, playing this on the Switch meant the ability to customize the controls to my heart's content. Mega Man 7 was released close to the end of the SNES lifecycle, and over a year after the fabulous Mega Man X, and you can see that this game learned some things from that series. Whether it was the fantastic music or the similar graphic style, Capcom took Mega Man X and created an actual sequel to Mega Man 6. Of course, this isn't an exact clone of X. It is close though. It still looks and feels like an OG franchise title, but adds just enough from X to make it feel like a natural evolution in the series. Playing on the Switch, you have the option to change your display modes from widescreen to original. I tended to go with the original because that's the way the game is designed, and also because I love the border art included in these games. The story for Mega Man 7 isn't exactly new, or even unique, which isn't terrible. Dr. Wily is locked up after the events of Mega Man 6, so he's devised new robot masters to help break him out. Booting up Mega Man 7, you see the similar grid with the level bosses to choose from, only all you see is 4, so you're left to think something is up. It's always been 8. Maybe these levels are longer. Not the case. They actually feel shorter, and once you beat the 4 bosses, 4 more just show up. It's very much a carrot and stick effect. It's actually kind of deflating. And finally, does Mega Man 7 still hold up today? Not really. While the game still looks pretty good in all its 16-bit glory, it feels kinda tired and rushed. Especially when you consider that when they went back to 8-bit a few titles later, those games hold up a lot better. There's a reason Capcom went back to the drawing board with their next outing. So the final verdict for Mega Man 7. The gameplay. It feels slow, it's easier than previous entries, although there was some neat level design and opportunities for light exploration. I gave it a 7. For the controls. It doesn't do a lot with the extra buttons, and thanks to the Switch, they are customizable. So I gave it a 7. For presentation, it's a good graphical evolution, new and familiar music, and you can see some lessons from the X series. So I gave it an 8. The story, it picks up right up after Mega Man 6. It's a very similar formula, but I did not like the carrot and stick thing they went with. So I gave it a 6. And does it still hold up today? Not really. I mean, the pixels still hold up, but the game feels tired and rushed. So I gave it a 7. That brings the total for Mega Man 7 to a, get this, 7. Well, that's it for another episode of Nifty Ninty. I'm going to apologize again for getting this one out a little late. I have been traveling a lot over the last, week and a bit, 3 different countries. Finally making my way back to home base shortly, but it's been a lot of work, so apologize for this coming out late. Still, a packed episode regardless. If you really like listening or watching, I don't know how you guys are doing it, if you're doing it on iTunes or YouTube or a little bit of both, please do subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe and turn on notifications. If you guys are on Twitter, give me a follow at tunaent_official. That's the number 2 NAENT_official. And of course, I do have a Patreon. Patreon subscribers get a timed exclusive to all podcasts, not just this one, but the other ones I do as well. So they go up there before iTunes and YouTube. And if I get enough subscribers, I would like to make some swag for you, whether that's in the form of stickers or t-shirts or just original artwork, because I do like to draw from time to time. You can look for that there as well. But for now, I hope you guys enjoy this. We've got another one coming in a few days. And as always, stay nifty.